We're about producing 1 blue circuit per second. More or less, kind of what we've been shooting for as we've been doing all our stuff. We're just going to go with it. Just roll with the punches. Calm down. My God, man. Where have you been? I've been so worried. We got so much to do. Roll the film. So the first thing to do would be to expand our copper smelting. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead, get a blueprint, copy this, and how many spaces? I'm putting 1 space in between. So once I got this place down, all that's left to do is kind of fill in the blanks. So let me go ahead and lay everything down. And probably what I'm going to do is, instead of using the stone furnaces, I'll just go ahead and plop in some steel furnaces. All right, so belts are down, steel furnaces, check, power and lights, and then finally all the inserters are in. Now all we got to do is hook up ore. And granted, this 1 lane is not going to feed everything, but we're going to have to get some additional iron ore in here. And I'm concerned with how I thought all this was going to work out together, but seems to be a lot of stuff crammed in here. And anyway, so it's a work in progress, so we're just going to run this belt down and then just switch up how we're splitting stuff off. So with adding the extra copper smelting array and running science pretty hard, we can see we've run pretty low on coal. So what I'm going to have to do is jump up here, and I think we're going to start. We can see there's a coal patch here, coal patch here, coal patch here, there's copper. So we're going to really work on getting all this stuff out of there. And then there's another uranium ore patch, so it's a pretty good little area up here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on getting some of this coal down to here before we completely run out of power. So one thing to note is that we have a mixed patch of copper and coal here. And so to mine this out, you can, when you hover over with a miner over a resource patch, you can see over to the right the expected resources. So here I have this miner set down. We can see that the expected resources to be mined by this miner once we place it down is 22k. Now I move it over 1 more and we can see that the expected resources are 16k coal and 4.8k copper ore. Well, I just want coal. So when you're laying these things down, you just got to be careful when there's a mixed patch that you're not getting anything other than you want, because I sure as heck don't want copper ore on my coal belt. All right, so we can see the coal coming in. So we're going to have a second lane. Did a little funny business coming in. But even before that, just because I stopped researching, coal started getting all the way down to the line. End of the line. I'm going to see power came back up. So that's the first thing to do if you run into power problems, is stop researching science, because it will suck your factory dry. But anyway, that should do her for coal. So the other maintenance thing I wanted to do today was to expand green circuits, but I don't think we need to. I think the problem is copper. So I'm going to let this run, see if we can get more copper rolling down the line, which is already happening, and see if that kind of fixes the problem with our green circuits. We've given it some time to collect copper plate. It's getting enough copper plate. We're just not able to keep up. So first of all, what I'll do, instead of doing this, I'll do that. And do that. It makes more sense to have it after it. And this guy wasn't even running. So a quarter of our green circuit assembly machines weren't even running. You know what? I'm going to leave it for a second, see how that does. But with that being said, I have researched nuclear power. So that's something in the near future we're going to start working on. That being said, I'm going to just start mining out some of these uranium ore patches. We don't have a lot in the base, but hey, You do with what you got. And all I'm going to do is just going to set a chest here. We're probably not going to get too much. And since sulfuric acid is kind of right around in here, we'll just bring sulfuric acid down. And if you don't know or not aware, to mine out the uranium ore out of the ground, you need sulfuric acid. And you get, whenever you don't need a different type of electric miner. You just place down the miner, the normal electric miners, and it turns, you get just a different graphic is what you get when you place it over a uranium ore mine. You just got to hook up your sulfuric acid, and there you go, you start producing uranium ore. Which reminds me that over here under our iron plate smelters, there's a little patch of uranium ore here. Now, I would have never have built over this to begin with. So we started this map in 0.14 before uranium ore was part of Factorio. When we switched over to 0.15, the uranium ore spawned in, just everywhere. So little heads up, if you want to bring a 0.14 map over to 0.15, the uranium ore will spawn even though you've already discovered that territory. You don't have to go to new undiscovered territory to find uranium. It will spawn as if you started a brand new map. Anyway, all that being said, I want to get this out of here. So I'm just going to take out all this stuff and then lay down our electric mining drills. And I'm just going to put a chest here. We're probably not going to get that much out of it. And now we just got to run our sulfuric acid over to here. Well, now that we got our coal, copper, green chips kind of taken care of, there's one thing I forgot to rebuild when we redid oil, and that was flamethrower fuel. And one thing to note in 0.15 is that instead of taking iron plate, flamethrower fuel now takes steel plate. So that's one little change that you need to take note of. So I pretty much got it all set up here. Just got to hook up a little power. And unfortunately, we're probably not going to make much. I think we're pretty low on crude, which is something we're going to have to take care of. So one of my new favorite things in 0.15 is the tank. In 0.15, the tank got buffed. It can take a lot more damage. Plus, besides shooting cannon shells and bullets, it can now be equipped with a flamethrower. Well, I guess it's always equipped with the flamethrower, but you can put flamethrower fuel in there, which is one of the reasons I needed to rebuild flamethrower fuel. You can drop bullets in here, and I like running it with at least some solid fuel, and we know we got a bunch of it. And I'm going to jump in and take care of some of these biters. There's a nest here, some down here, up here. Yeah, clear some of out. They're being a bit of a hassle. And as you just saw right there, with just piercing rounds, you can really get in there and do some damage. Now, the flamethrower is good for taking down trees. And another quick note, if you hit the tab button, you switch between which ammunition you're using, which weapon. And when you use flamethrower, it's good for taking down trees in your way, and it's good for killing bugs. And it doesn't let the whole forest on fire, which I think is actually a really good thing. But when it comes to taking out the actual hives and worms, bullets, piercing rounds are a lot better than flamethrower. The best is when you get exploding shells, and if you finally get up to uranium, depleted uranium bullets and depleted uranium exploding shells, well, you're golden. So my technique for taking out bases is go for the worms and the hives first, kind of loop around them, and then as the insectoid swine try to follow you around, you just kind of keep looping around and they can't really get at you. Alright, so I'm back at base, taking a look at the map. I cleared out most of the bases in the pollution zone. But as you can see, as we get out farther, there's some pretty big bases. And just having piercing rounds probably isn't going to be enough to take out some of these big bases, like this guy way out here. So I'm probably going to have to wait till exploding cannon shells to get out there and take care of those, if I want to do them in the tank. Now that all our maintenance work is behind us, it's time to push again towards building. And we take our factory towards yellow science. So if we take a look at yellow science, it's batteries, blue circuits, level 1 speed modules, and copper cables. We're not going to worry too much about copper cables. And so the first thing I would probably do, if we didn't have it done already, would be to work on batteries. But we already set that up because you remember in 0.14, to do blue science, you needed batteries. So we were preparing for the old blue science, and now we got the new blue science, and now we got purple science, and now there's yellow. But batteries fall kind of right in line because you need sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid, you can go back and look at the video. Nothing has changed here in terms of ratios, so we got sulfuric acid plus a little bit of iron, a little bit of copper plate. Bingo bango, you got batteries. But you also need sulfuric acid to make blue circuits. Now, another, probably the most important ingredient when it comes to blue circuits, aka processing units, is the green circuits. Each blue circuit takes 20 green circuits. So where we've been kind of trucking along pretty good with 4 assembly machines, making green circuits, let me tell you right now, that ain't gonna cut it for blue circuits. So at some point, we're gonna have to crank up our green circuit production. And when we do that, you gotta have more copper, more iron. That's the name of the game. All right, so I figure here is where we're going to put down our blue circuits. And I'm probably gonna have the input for it to be right around here. Output head out to the left. So we're gonna give it some space, but maybe something like that. Just have some general spacers right there. And I'm gonna start placing down, I think I'm gonna line it up with this. We're gonna go ahead and lay down 5 assembly machines. So I figure we'll do 10 since the blue circuits, to make one it takes 10 seconds. So we lay down 10 assembly machines roughly, not including assembly machine, speed. We're about producing 1 blue circuit per second. More or less kind of what we've been shooting for as we've been doing all our stuff. We're just gonna go with it. Just roll with the punches. Calm down. So belts are in. More or less that's kind of how the belts are gonna look. Program these for blue circuits. Now point these towards each other. Point this guy out. And so our pipes are gonna go in here. Something like that. Like that. They'll all get connected together. And we'll figure out a way, maybe out this way, that the sulfuric acid will get piped in. And there we go, we got power and lights hooked up. So now all we gotta do is figure out how we wanna get our materials into here. So as I mentioned, we need a bunch of green circuits. We need 20 green circuits per blue circuit. And we only need about 2 red circuits. So 2 red circuits, that's about in the range of normalcy, where 20 green circuits is just, blow your mind. So what I'm going to try to do here is that I'm going to go for 1.5 lanes of green circuit and just a half lane of red circuits. I want to bring my green circuits down in like this. So green circuits in here. So we're going to do the old splitter trick to get this inside lane of red and green, and then just 100% green on the outside. So for right now, I think I'm considering this as to perhaps there will be, 4 lanes of green circuits. I don't know. But for right now, this is what I'm going to do. And it kind of keeps everything within these 4 lanes. So assuming that I'm bringing red circuits down this way, it'll kind of peel off like this, pop in there, and I left myself just enough room to make it happen. So red circuits come in like that. Green circuits are going to come in like that. Plus they're going to come in this way. We'll see. And actually, I think I'm changing my mind. That can stay like this. I think I want my split belt on the outside here. Because on this internal belt, we're going to have one blue inserter, right? And those things rip pretty good. And, perhaps we go bump it up to, stack inserters or something. But on the outside, we can go with a red inserter, the long-handed inserters. Because the volume on the outside track is a lot less than the inside track. And probably what I'm going to do, because I'm thinking about, future beaconing here. And that'll leave us some space in here to lay down a beacon if we want. Something like that. And now we just simply have green circuits on that inside track. Just a little change up. So essentially, that's how our blue circuit build is going to look. All that's left to do is get our 3 ingredients brought in here. All right, so here we go. We're going to get our sulfuric acid hooked up. It's making its way into the assembly machines. And then finally, hook up our green, red circuits and see how this is going to play out. And there we go. They're floating in, trickling in, and you can see it is just decimating what was a full belt of green circuits. But we're getting blue circuits on the belt, and so what more could you ask for?
Well, Shred, at least you got the blue circuits going. That's something, at least. In the next episode, I want to wrap up yellow science. Get it out the door. Get it!
Hoo, 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 hoo. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kicks were fast as lightning.
In fact, it was a